My mama always said, pretty is as pretty does. Stay tuned to find out if that holds true for the Jamo S10 subwoofer. Hello YouTube, Chris the Frugal Audiophile here with you again today for another review. And what you have before you is the Jamo S10 810 subwoofer. And so today we're going to take a look at this guy, figure out if it's worth the asking price, and if it performs well while still being a very pretty looking subwoofer. So yes, this is the Jamo S810 subwoofer. This is in their S line. It sells for about $230. Sometimes it's a little below that, sometimes it's a little above that, but around about $230. And for that price, you get a 10-inch subwoofer, you get a 75 watt RMS, 150 watt peak amplifier, and you get a ported design. There's a port down underneath here, as well as, and that's one issue we're going to talk about, so that's perfect. We'll just take that off, leave it away. But here's your woofer. I have it sitting this way right now so that you can see how thin it is, and I will turn around and face it forward here in just a minute so you can have a better look at it. But you can see this is a fairly narrow, probably about a 9-inch deep cabinet. I'm sure the measurements are online, more specific, want to look at that, but about 9 inches deep and very narrow, but yet taller than a lot of 10-inch subwoofers. So it's probably a very similar, like actually cubic inches in volume, but it's taller and narrower, so it'll easily fit into difficult environments. What are you doing, cat? My cat's over there making noise, distracting me. You're distracting me, cat. So yeah, that's it. That's kind of an overview of its looks. Now, its features are a 10-inch paper cone woofer here. I like the inverted dust cap. I think it looks nice. Fairly decent rubber surround, and I will turn it forward for you so you can have a better look at it here. And then Jamo does this on their S line. I've not seen the C line in person to know, but on their S line they kind of have this recessed enclosure here around the subwoofer where it would be inserted, and there's no exposed hardware or anything. It must be, done on the backside. So even with the grill off, I still think it's very pretty. And then on the bottom here is the kind of this wood pedestal they have here with the feet on it. This is a wrap. It's not real wood. So, and this is also where you will find your connections. All right. So that's where your connections and your controls are, underneath there. Yeah, a little bit challenging. So we're going to talk about that when the time comes. But there you are. There you have them. And this subwoofer is rated down to 36 hertz. So it's not going to be digging, to your subsonic levels, but it is rated down to 36 hertz. All right. And so that's something to keep in mind as we go forward here, talk about its use in home theater. Yeah, that's kind of your, just an overview of its appearance and its features, what it has going for it. Oh, and it does include I got some coffee here. This is Boxing Scroll from my local chain. It's gonna be a pretty long review today, so wanted to have some coffee. In the box, you get a power cord. You're thinking, well, duh, let's hope, but I don't know if you can see this very well. I'll throw up a B-roll. But here is the plug for the wall, but even the plug for the subwoofer, the IEC here, is at a right angle so that you can get up underneath there and connect it. But it's the wrong right angle because it should be flat and then angled up. Otherwise, this is gonna really be sticking into your carpet. It should be fine. It's just something to keep in mind when you are, and where? Hang on, gotta find the subwoofer cable. All right, got it. All right, and here we have the included subwoofer cable, a very thin single RCA, but this end is a right angle to help, get it underneath there as well. And this actually fits underneath the feet and your floor easier than the power cord. But it's pretty chintzy. We're gonna talk about this more. I think that's everything as far as overview and features are concerned. So what is this subwoofer's assignment? And its assignment is going to be for it to look good while still performing respectively in its price class. And we're gonna talk about that as we go along and see how well it does. So to begin with, what did it get right? Well, of course, appearance. You can't say that this is an ugly subwoofer. I've seen ugly subwoofers. I've seen a lot uglier ones. I've probably seen prettier ones, but not in the $200 and some price range. It's very pretty. It is white. You can also get this in black as well as walnut. So I'm going to give it mad props for its appearance. I think this will have what I'm going to call the SAF, and that is not WAF, but SAF, and that is the spousal acceptance factor, because I don't think that it's just wives who want something that's pretty in their home, especially in their public living area, a non-dedicated home theater space. All right, somewhere where you just have normal conversation, as well as every once in a while you want to crank up a movie. So we will call that the spouse acceptance factor, or the SAF, and this has SAF written all over it, as you can probably see for yourself there. The SAF is off the charts. Something else that it gets right is sound quality. All right, it does sound good. I was afraid that this port right here, sticking in my carpet, was really going to cause some issues, and it didn't. It's almost like when I have thicker carpet, okay, in my house here. It's a fairly high pile, and this almost is into the carpet. And what it does, it kind of makes it like a port plug. So you get less chuffing, but you probably don't get as much a low frequency response. Of course, when you plug a port, it doesn't have the ability to move quite as well, so it's not going to go as low, as loud, but it also tightens up the sound a bit. If you have hardwood floors, your experience may vary on that side. You might get a little bit more port chuffing, but I hardly heard any port chuffing at all. So it has a nice tight sound. It blended nicely with my Aperion Intimus speakers, as well as my Emotiva B5 ELAC B5 speakers, using it for music in there. And yeah, it blended nicely. It worked well in those situations. So I really like the sound of the speaker. Have I heard better? Yes. But for $230, I don't think so. I have the Bic F12. Actually, it's in there. It's in my main, my 2-channel listening area, and it hits lower and gets louder, but it's a little bit boomier than this one, surprisingly. But it has a huge port on it, so that's kind of to be expected. So we have looks, we have quality bass, we have the SAF. It's got off the chart SAF. So what does it get wrong? Well, we're going to talk a few things about its design, and the first one is those ports and connections, man. Underneath there, that is such a huge pain in the butt. If you want to ever go in and change it, what you got to do is you got to get in front of it, obviously, and kick it up, and then you can fiddle with the ports. And it's not heavy, but it's not the lightest subwoofer, and that is so much less convenient than just going to the back of a subwoofer and playing. So I really do not like where they have the connections. And speaking of the connections, there's only one connection on the subwoofer. That is a single RCA input. Of course, that's why they include their single mono RCA cable here. It's very chintzy. Now, if you don't want to use this, or if this is not long enough, I think it's like 6 feet. If this is not long enough for you, then you can get couplers, or you can get elbows. I have both of those. They both work just fine. So you would plug this into the subwoofer, and then plug this into a coupler, and then you could take whatever RCA cable you have and add an elbow onto it. I will link to some of those in the description, because I think if you're going to get this sub and you want to have flexible placement, you're going to need those. I would recommend using a coupler, because you really need that narrow RCA cable in order to get up underneath this base here and plug it into the port on the bottom of it. So that's one thing I really don't like about this subwoofer, is the placement of those connections and controls. The next thing it gets wrong is there are some quality control issues with this subwoofer. And for one thing, these connection cups here for the grill, I've already had 2 of them come out. I think, yeah, you can see here, this is missing one. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's missing one. And then the binding pegs on here, missing one again. And this happened as soon as I took it out of the box. This is not something that, I abused it and happened to it. That happened right away when I took it out of the box. I think it actually came out of the box with one of them coming out. So that's something to keep in mind there. So I'm going to take off some points for the quality control there. I don't know if it's quality control or the design of this system, but it's not a very good system. Jamo, they need to work on that. I would suggest a magnetic grill. That would make this front fascia so much prettier if there was magnets and there was not these cups everywhere. Probably up the price a little bit, but it would take the SAF even higher up. It just was bare, no binding cups at all to be seen, and you had a magnetic grill. Bada bing, you're done. It'd just be so much better. I wish that more sub manufacturers and speaker manufacturers would do that. It makes the front look so clean. Anyway, rant over. And the next thing that this subwoofer gets wrong, and really the last thing, is its frequency response. It really struggles much below 36 hertz, and that's what it's rated to do. I say it really comes alive at 40 hertz. So that's okay for music, not great for home theater use. Now, I use this, and I was watching Tenet. If you haven't seen that, it's a great movie, especially that first scene. It's very bombastic. There's a lot of gunshots, and there's even an explosion at the end of it, the very first opening scene of that movie. And it's a great one to test out subwoofers. And so I watched it with my SVS SB12 subwoofers for the first time through, and it was awesome. It was very impactful, hitting low. I plugged this guy in and watched that same scene again, and I just felt something was missing. There was not the volume in the bass that was there, and I had it dialed in as good as I could get it, in my room, and it was also missing a lot of frequency response. So I really felt it was lacking there for bass response, and that is unfortunate. So I'm not going to give this a very good rating for home theater use, spoiler. But for music, I think it's just fine. Most music does not go below that 35 hertz range. I mean, some does, certainly, but a lot of it does not. So for music, it's going to get a little bit better grade, but for home theater, it's not hitting low enough for my taste. Now, you got to balance that out with the appearance. Do you need a subwoofer that looks great and you're less worried about how low it hits? Then you're going to look at this one, and your budget's around $250. You're going to look at this guy. So that's my major complaint and my major critique of this subwoofer is that bass response. And I need some coffee. I've been talking for a while. That's good. So that's what it gets wrong. It's the connection and controls, some quality control issues, and it took a lot of points off for the frequency response. So that brings me to my Frugality Grade. For stereo 2-channel music, I'm going to give this subwoofer a B- because it does hit low enough for most music, but not all music. And it's kind of a big subwoofer really to be putting into like a desktop system or an office. It's really designed to go like in a living room, probably maybe even a dedicated theater, but I think it would be the best place for it. Anyway, so it's not going to score super high because of that, just because of its size. But as far as the bass quality and how low it digs, it would work pretty good. If you got the space, you like the looks of it, go ahead and put it in your office on your 2-channel system. Now for home theater, I'm going to give it a C. I'm just going to go a straight flat C. It does not go low enough. There are subs at this price range that can get closer to 25 hertz. For example, from Dayton, from Klipsch, from Bic, as I was talking about before, the F12, around about the same price. It gets around to about 25 hertz. So you're getting 10 more hertz out of it, closer to that home theater performance. So I would say that those would be a better choice in that scenario. That's why I went ahead and gave this a C for home theater performance. So my recommendation, if you're interested in this subwoofer, you like the looks of it, you think that it's got that SAF off the charts, and so you know that your spouse is going to be, or your significant other is going to be okay with it, then my recommendation is this. It is great for a living room home theater system where you do not have a dedicated space. You want something that looks nice, performs decently, sounds good. Maybe you got the other Jamo S speakers, you want it to match them. It matches really nicely with them. It's pretty much the same color, as well as you got the same grill here, so it's going to match perfectly with those speakers, and that would be a great option. If your budget is around $250 and you want something that looks nice, you know, pick this guy up. I think you'll be happy. And if you're also looking for something to complement a 2-channel, mostly music listening system, and you need to go pretty, get this guy, or this gal. We'll call it a gal since we're saying it's pretty. I don't know. Does that matter? Is that offensive? I hope not. But pick this gal up, you know. She's a looker. But just be prepared that your bass is not going to go much below 36 hertz. And when I did some frequency sweeps and I looked up some measurements, that holds true. I can tell that is where this thing is going to drop off. It does go lower, but you are starting to reach your -6 decibel point pretty quickly once you get past 35, 30 hertz on your frequency response. So just keep that in mind. But thank you so much for watching this review. Hope I didn't ramble on too long, but I wanted to cover a lot with this subwoofer. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of good, and there's quite a bit of bad with this guy as well. But I wanted to make sure to get that information out to you. So if you do like this kind of content, please subscribe to my channel and consider becoming a patron. I will leave a link to my Patreon down in the description. And remember, frugal doesn't necessarily mean cheap.